What is happening today? What's happening this week?
Right, MPs agreed to give Theresa May, the Prime Minister, basically a blank cheque. Peers in the House of Lords want to fill in some conditions on the negotiations. For instance, say MPs must have a meaningful vote before she can agree a deal on leaving, or dictate the terms on what happens to Europeans 3.2 million who are already living here. So there's going to be a big battle between her and peers, but it will go back to MPs who will have the final say. She wants a free hand, a blank cheque. You want to give her a free hand, a blank cheque. I want Parliament to be sovereign and Parliament to decide the terms of us leaving.
But the other big issue is what happens to people coming to the UK from the EU. And I can imagine there is an awful lot of insecurity for them at the moment.
She's quite rightly going to say, once Article 50 is triggered, if EU migrants come here, they've no longer got the permanent right to come here. And the deal will be the EU migrants here already will be able to stay as long as the EU gives people from Britain who are living in the EU the same rights of permanent residence.
Yeah, which is a very insecure position, because what happens if that isn't granted?
But it's also protecting our citizens in Europe,
exactly what it's doing. It's giving... Because she says, I'm not going to give them automatic rights to stay here, because what about our citizens in Europe? And by the way, there are 3.2 million here, and there's only 1.2 million Britons living abroad. So it's she's got a much more powerful card to play. And by the way, a lot of people who voted to leave the EU wanted to stop free movement of people coming here because they don't think Britain can cope with the sheer numbers coming in every year.
There's no real threat to the Britons living abroad. They're concerned, understandably, but nobody is wanting to kick them out. It's Britain that wants to leave the European Union. And the people who've been living here, often years, working hard, public services, paying their taxes, have children, they're in schools, they're great citizens, a big boost for Britain. And I think it's wrong that even now she doesn't just clear it up and says, of course you can stay. You contribute to Britain. You're part of Britain. You help make Britain great.
She wants to protect the rights of the EU, British people living in the EU. And the deal will be, if you can ensure ours have the same rights, we'll give them the same rights.
Here's the problem, is that if she doesn't hang tough over not making a decision on this stuff, there might be other ways that the European Union want to screw us, right, which are actually worse for our citizens. So, you know, it's a difficult thing. You don't want to make people feel insecure.
Nope.
It does seem very unfair on them.
Neither of these groups of people want to be used as bargaining chips, as hostages.
There's 27 countries who will try and bully us and cajole us, so she's got a very important card here. There's 3.2 million here. Don't push me around too much, or they'll have to go.
Don't play the victim and bully us. You've been shouting and abusing the other 27 for the last 10 years.
What about the House of Lords and all this? Because we're talking to two members of the House of Lords later about this on either side of this. How much power do they really have to affect anything to do with Brexit?
Little, in truth, because they can agree whatever they want. It would go back to the House of Commons where MPs are elected. Of course, the peers aren't. And if MPs say no, then it won't happen. So it's kind of advisory, but a lot of the stuff they say might strike a chord with MPs who rolled over a few weeks ago. They might get a bit of backbone now.
So, Andrew, they're comparing the arguments, or what are they doing?
No, the important thing is the House of Commons voted. There's 650 MPs. I think it was 420 MPs voted to send it, Article 50, to the Lords unamended. So the Lords, they're unelected, should heed what the elected MP said and send it back unamended.
Of course they should in the end, and the country voted for Brexit, so there will be Brexit. But it's what does that mean?